Of course, we're not going to always write our styles as inline styles. Let me show you another way to set this up. I'm going to cut out the inline styles on the habit group tag. And up here in the body of the tag, I'm going to add the CSS keyword and then paste the styles in here. You can see that we get the exact same result. And let me just try changing this to red. You can see the border is now red, just to prove that it's working. And when you're writing your styles out here, we now have the flexibility to move this onto multiple lines if we want. And you can write your styles pretty close to traditional CSS syntax if you want. But what's really cool here is that Imba's CSS blocks solve an important problem that occurs with CSS, which is that generally when you write your styles, they're global to the entire project. It's very common to have these global styles that interfere with each other, and then you start using very specific class names to get around that, and it can be a big pain. In Imba, the default is that styles are scoped. So the style block declared on the habit group tag only applies to tags that are part of habit group. So I'm going to add an additional CSS block here. You can have as many as you want. In this one, I'm going to start with a selector, label, and say BGC red for background color red. Now we don't actually have a label tag here, so let me add one. There's a label tag, hello, and we can see that label has a bright red background. We can't miss it, right? Now I did this so that we can prove to ourselves that the styles are scoped. So this selector, label, applies only to this label tag within habit group. And we have label tags in habit item, and they're used on all of these habit items, but they're not being styled by this CSS block, which is great because we're not accidentally styling things that we didn't intend. And we don't have to use a bunch of crazy class names because there's only one label tag in this very short HTML template. And so just using label as the selector is very convenient. But what if we did want to style more than just the label tag within this tag here? We can cut this out, and if we paste it at the root level of our file, like this, now this CSS block applies to any tag defined in this file. So when I save, we'll see that the label tag defined in habit group and the label tags defined in habit item all turn red, because this style is applying to all of them now. But still, this is scoped. It's now scoped to the file. So if we had another file that defined some other tags, this CSS block wouldn't apply to that. And we can prove this to ourselves too. If I change this to a selector of the body tag, and we say body BGC red, you can see it didn't actually change the body's background color, and that's because this is scoped to this file, and none of the tags in this file have body tags within them. So what if we did want to style the body? You can put the global keyword in front of CSS, and now these styles apply everywhere. So this is a lot like putting a traditional CSS file into your HTML template. It's global. So you have that option as well. So now we have a red background color, which doesn't look too pretty. So let's change this to a light gray. And let's delete this label tag because we just put that there for a test. And I'm going to change the background color of habit group to be white. Okay, and one note about the selector here. You can see in this CSS block, I didn't actually include a selector at all. That's the equivalent of using the self selector. So a CSS block with no selector will apply to the self tag, but we can just leave it off. And I'm going to put this back onto one line. Okay, now if you'd like to try this yourself, I want you to take the inline styles here from habit item and move them into the habit item tag as a CSS block, kind of like this. Don't forget the selector. You can use label as the selector. Okay, so here's how you would do that. We can say CSS, label, and then we just paste in these styles here. So I'll just copy and paste them. And we can delete this, and we should get the same result. I'll also mention if you have another selector nested under the first one, like div, and I'll put BGC red, then this selector will be scoped to the one above it. And if I had another tag inside of here, like a span, BGC blue, you can see that span tag is now styled blue, but if I add a span tag outside, this one's not blue. So you can indent to nest selectors within your style blocks. Okay, I'm going to undo all of that stuff, and in the next lesson, we're going to look at some more Imba CSS superpowers.